Excellent. Well, today is Friday, July 21st, 2017, and I am Kevin Lynn. I'm with the Center for Progressive Urban Politics, and it is a real pleasure to have Bryan Dorian of PIVX with us here today. And Bryan's company, PIVX, is a cryptocurrency. It's there are several out there. And what Bryan's going to do today is for us folks that are kind of uninitiated into what terms such as cryptocurrency, blockchain, ICOs are, he's going to take the mystery out of that for us. And we're actually going to go a little bit even beyond that, because this isn't just about economics. This is changing the paradigm of how we live and relate to each other politically, economically, in a society. And so this is really exciting to have you here today, Bryan. And thank you very much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure.
And one of the things we do is we give a little gift to all of the folks who come and talk to us here at the Center for Progressive Urban Politics. And you're getting a token, a coin from the Chris Duane collection, the Silver Shield. And it says on it, competition is a sin. And it has a banker, fat cat sitting back collecting money. And I thought that would be appropriate today because PIVX and other folks that are out there in your sphere are working to end that paradigm.
Awesome.
Well, without any further ado, Bryan, now you're local here to Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Usually when we talk to someone who's into technology and finance, we're talking to people in either New York City, Silicon Valley. Now, tell us a little about PIVX and your role in PIVX.
Sure. So to start, it's interesting, and it's sort of I have to frame it from PIVX is actually not a company. It's one of those. It's I guess the thing to think about is it's a hive organization. So it is completely structured. So there's no actual official entity, which is kind of cool. So we'll come back to that.
Great.
Yeah. So let me tie back around. Yeah. So I'm actually local in Philly. There's a lot of tech people and blockchain people popping up out of the woodworks on the East Coast, which is really cool to see. So PIVX is an acronym. It's also the cryptocurrency and blockchain, and it stands for Private Instant Verified Transaction. Right. So it's pretty nice on one hand because when you say the name, you're actually saying the acronym of what PIVX is.
I love it.
Right? And
Private Instant Verified Transaction.
Yeah. So it's pretty to the point of, hey, this is what we're about. We'll go down those rabbit holes as well. Yeah, the other thing, too, from the SEO space, it's nice when you can find a four-letter word in the web space, right? And that hasn't been captured. So, yeah, kudos to the marketing team on that one. Yeah, so I've somehow... It's the flow of life. Actually, it's fitting, right? There's a giant mural of water behind us.
And that is a painting by Davey Miller. He's a Ventura, California-based artist.
It's beautiful.
And I was fortunate enough to pick it up before I left California.
Awesome. Yeah, so it's a fitting backdrop for many reasons. I understand why you have it here. So flow of life. I have been with PIVX for about a little over a year or so.
Which is a long time in this space.
Eons. in crypto, so, dog years, right, is one dog year is 7 human? I forget the math of it. Yeah, one day in crypto, it might as well be a year of how fast stuff's changing, which is phenomenal. So,
because a year ago, we all wish we had bought Bitcoin.
Yeah, and a year from now, we'll have all wished we had picked up PIVX and Bitcoin. Yeah, absolutely. So, a little side tangent on that one. We can go down that rail. Because people say, oh, it's a bubble. It's going to pop. This whole industry is going to crash. And There's $100 billion, the total market cap of crypto right now, which is a lot of money. However,
but relatively speaking to the assets that are out there, whether they be cash, debt, claims on debt, like a derivative. I mean, it's minuscule, isn't it?
It's that little drop about there,
Right.
you know, on the mural. So, I always tell people it's smaller than Instagram. It's smaller than Google. It's smaller than Apple, that total market cap. So, we're however many years into this life cycle of this new technology and paradigm shift. It's still very early. So
it's an exciting place to be.
Very much so.
Before we go down that rabbit hole, how did you get involved with PIVX, and what is your background, Dorian?
Oh, absolutely.
Or Bryan, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's funny. A lot of my friends call me Dorian. I think it's a it's a catchier name, right? So I actually entered the crypto space in 2013. Again, I'd heard about Bitcoin, saw it early on, and went, this is really
early on. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, like many of us I wish I got into Bitcoin when it was $20 a coin, $30 a coin.
Right.
Didn't do it, but entered into the space pretty early on enough, and immediately something drew me to go, wow, there's more than just this Bitcoin thing. Like, okay, what is this underlying technology? And there's other things that are popping up. There's other groups, entities that are using this or trying to. So me being me, I went, well, I'm going to find another cryptocurrency project that has a decent name about it. And for me, what was really important is community, right? Because for me, I look at it and I go, I need to feel the pulse of why somebody's doing something or an organization, right?
I mean, so that's the community of the folks that work with PIVX.
Yeah, or the people rallying around it, talking about it. What's the feel? So I ended up with this project called Netcoin. It's still around, and it was the first coin for me where I went, interesting name, Netcoin, and a community. There was actually a focus on trying to build a community around it. And so, you know, like many endeavors, startups, however you want to look at it, some succeed, some go different paths, and
Australopithecus africanus, Homo habilis. Yes, it just did.
Did it. Yep. So it was amazing, and this is what I love about the space: the connections made, right? Especially early on. Some friends that I will have for life found through that portal, that entry jump for me. So
you made me think when I was, I had friends who worked at Deloitte and Touche, and they said one of the primary reasons to hire someone, they'd ask themselves, is this someone I could sit next to on a plane for 5 or 6 hours and find them interesting? And
bingo. Yeah. So the actual start of what is now PIVX came from people that were part of Netcoin. There was some folks that were involved in the community and went, wow, we see where this whole industry is going, and we also see a loss of focus on privacy, right? And also the ability to have what I would call truer currency system. A lot of the crypto sphere started turning into a money grab. So they went, we're going to focus on something. We're going to focus on privacy and on being a instant type of a transaction. So fast, reliable, secure, and private. And they started. And at that point, there wasn't a lot of marketing around it. There wasn't a lot of community. It was tech, devs, putting their heads down, working, right? So for me, I don't have much attachment to it. And then cycle forward, kept my toes in the water, cycle forward. When they started to ramp up the marketing is when I went, okay, I see where things are going. I feel the pulse of where we're going. I like purple. They chose purple and sort of jumped in at that point.
But what's important, too, because folks like yourself are so needed. I always say the poets lead the revolution. You have to be able to take these ideas that are floating around out there and create the metaphors that will enable people to get, like me, to get our heads around it and understand what this is immediately for us, but also the bigger picture.
Sure. So that's where it was fun for me to jump in. And one of the things that I love about PIVX is we say, I mean, it's private instant verified transaction. We've sort of taken the stance of we're a global crypto community using a currency. So it's that, there's amazing tech and development going on, and it will blow your mind of what's occurring. And yet, I love what you said, the analogy about, hey, I want to sit down on a plane for 5 hours with this person or not. We have a saying, it's on the back of our business cards, which is just a, hey, come to our website, check us out. It's a table. It's a picture of a table. Because we have this mantra about we're all coming down at a table, sitting down. Right?
Okay.
So if you walk into somebody's house and you just kick in the door and throw your shoes on the table, well, that's not very respectful of the people and the relational dynamic. We have the same feeling about our community of anyone's welcome. Come in. Let's have it. Sit down. Let's sit at the table and work together in that consensus family model. So that's one of the reasons I love PIVX. So yeah, you had asked about explaining some of the terms.
Right. Let's talk about that because, okay, for instance, there's a term called cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
But there's also a term called blockchain. And they seem to be used in tandem all the time, but they're not synonymous, are they?
No. They're obviously they overlap a lot. It's nice to separate it out and look at, let's focus on blockchain. Let's focus on what Satoshi put out, who is pseudo-anonymous, again, the founder of Bitcoin.
Right, he's almost a mythic character in this ongoing story.
Which has that element of like, this is the modern day fable lore.
Now, personally, do you think he's a person or is he a conglomerate of people?
My gut is I think it's a conglomerate.
Okay.
I feel it's a sole person. Again, if it is, no offense, it to me feels like this was more of a constructive group effort that we use the pseudonym about. So
a while ago, my younger brother turned me on to a book called Ready Player One, which was a dystopic future, but, you know, there was a technology that people kind of inhabited a otherworldly space that they entered through their computers and lived, essentially. And, but, yeah, who founded this game they were all playing? It was kind of mythic when it all came down to it.
It's really neat. So blockchain technology. So the way that it makes sense for me, how I typically think about and describe it, is a ledger system, right?
Okay.
So think about it in terms of a ledger. So up until recently in human history, mankind history, we've had what is called a double ledger, right?
Right.
Nothing more than
debits, credits.
I've got a product, you've got money, right? So you come in, give me money, whatever it is, I give you the product, receipt, there it is, double ledger, right? We both have that to verify the transaction took place. What is different about what blockchain did, revolutionary, is it is a triple ledger. It adds in an agnostic, unmutable record of every transaction that sits outside of us, right? So it's agnostic. It has no feelings or emotions. It is literally recording every single transaction here. So that opens up the ability to do those types of transactions, trusting that it's being recorded over here. It's a triple ledger system. So we can go down that rabbit hole of how that can be used.
Yeah, let's do that. But before, let's push that to the side. But then let's talk about what a cryptocurrency is.
So those are you can think of that as it's a token, reward, etc. Well, why do you need that? Well, in order to compute. So when Satoshi laid out the algorithm and when they laid that out, in order to process all of those transactions that could be occurring, takes computer power. That's how they built the initial system. It's called proof of work. So how do you get people to do that work? Well, you give them something, right? It's basic logic. Like, oh, you're going to do some work, I'll give you something. So what happened is in this ecosystem, you have computers processing these transactions. And as a reward, you get a Bitcoin.
It's interesting because I guess the term mining is appropriate because you look at the value of a silver coin. You know, tons of ore has been moved and processed to bring us that eventually ounce of 0.999% silver that is in this coin. So that's value. So that's, you know, to me, that's an interesting concept that you're doing that with value. You're adding value.
Yeah. So that was that initial work that was laid out, and that's basically blockchain and a crypto. So
one other thing with now, I was reading one of Charles Hugh Smith's books, and he was talking about what to do in an economy where we don't necessarily reward work that benefits society. He was talking, for instance, if you were to build a bike lane, it helps the community, but you probably can't personally derive a lot of value. But if something were out there that would say, wow, you've done this work, is that somewhere where could that be a currency in that work?
It is.
Okay.
And that's the beauty of this whole blockchain cryptocurrency space, is you now have that ability to set up that type of a structure, right? So then, of course, we then say, well, how is the value derived from that token, right, of a Bitcoin?
Right.
Well, it comes down to a few things: use, integration, and acceptance, right? So if you've got every single biker in the world that use this token, and then they start to go, you know what, you've got a great helmet. Oh, I've got a bike. Hey, we'll swap some tokens. Now there's fluidity. There's movement of a token or a store of wealth.
Right. In currency terms, it would be not flow, but what's the term? I had on the tip of my tongue, velocity.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's where, spanning back a little bit, we're still very on in the life cycle of acceptance and use within the greater society and public. But back to your point about rewarding services or acts that benefit humanity, society, etc., absolutely. That's something that can be built in.
Wow, that's really interesting, because that seems to be that missing part of, when you read Charles's book, that missing part of the equation. Yeah. How do you put this on a ledger somewhere, and how is it rewarded then?
Yep. Yeah, you can go back, check it, and say, yep, that work was done, this amount of hours, or this was serviced. Okay, boop, reward.
Okay, so we've talked about blockchain, we've talked about mining, we've talked about cryptocurrency. Now, where does PIVX fit into this realm? Sure. Is it, and if you could put it like in relation to other players that are out there, because again, this is all, it's almost, I was working for one of the big accounting firms during the .com era, and I watched things go, and if you were an accountant in a room, you went, wow, is that a Java solution? They were like, oh my God, this guy knows, he has knowledge. Come, be our accountant. We were just kind of feeling our way and trying to understand, because there were people that were going out, digging for the gold, but then there were people also selling them the shovels. Bingo. Like, the different Clecks and everything that were out there at the time. Yeah. So where does PIVX fit in relative to everyone else, or are you just kind of forging ahead doing your own thing? Or
No. So that's, again, sort of the homage and respect of cryptos in this society entity. It is a society. It's weird to think about it that way. It's built upon others' work and then adding in, right? It's innovation, it's innovation, it's innovation. So from a code base and sort of the underlying core technology, it's actually built on Bitcoin. So there's a lot of the functionality and code base. If you go into the GitHub, which is where all the devs basically hang out, look at the code all day, you'll see that the core of PIVX is actually that code base, right? Okay. And then taken upon and built upon. So from a global perspective, PIVX is looking to position itself and working to become a global currency. So from that standpoint, being used in an instant, I go to a cash register, okay, I can actually make a payment and get that, and it's done, verified. And we also are focused on the privacy section as well, which we can talk about that in a second. So a lot of the issues that have come up in the cryptocurrency space is that it's not really usable for point-of-sale transactions. So Bitcoin right now, the transaction times, which actually, if you read up about it, they're making some changes to hopefully increase the amount of memory per transaction, which will speed up the times. It's still a slow process right now. It can take 30 minutes. It can take an hour for a transaction to actually go through.
Because I think of an organization like Visa.
Yeah.
I mean, they process they must process 1 trillion transactions a year. Yeah. And they seem to be able to do it very quickly. They crack that code.
Yes. Yeah. So Bitcoin right now is having some problems with that type of a scalability. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean it's not useful. It just, from a currency standpoint,
makes it not too practicable.
Yes. So PIVX is positioning itself to be that go-to for, hey, instant. I can send $100,000 worth of PIVX to somebody in Australia, and it takes on average a couple seconds. If I choose to send it using SwiftX, which is the technology that we have, it's under a second, and it's there.
So a threefold increase in speed.
Yeah. So the other thing, too, is from a code-based standpoint, we are different than the proof of work model, which is what Bitcoin is. So, and I don't know if we want to go down that. We can. I don't know how technical we want to go.
I'm not sure if I'm not even sure if you see my eyes glazing over at some point.
So here, if we know or if you've heard of BitTorrent, so if you've ever heard of that, where it is a ecosystem designed of consensus, right?
Correct.
Everyone participates together. Actually, that's a good analogy. So in the mining, right, you are competing. Competing from that standpoint of, I'm going to go, if I mine away and I mine faster, harder,
I'll get more coins.
I'll get more coins, right? So that's the model of proof of work in general. So that's why you have massive farms and people in China mining this. In PIVX, it's called proof of stake. And you think of it from that way of, rather than that competition, it's consensus. So I come in with my laptop, I download what's called the wallet, and that connects, and all of a sudden I'm running the entire blockchain. So I'm verifying all the transactions along with all the other thousands of people running that software together. We're doing it collectively, right? So that's why, from also a power use, we'll go down this real quick. The power use required to run the whole Bitcoin ecosystem, it's a power plant running 24/7. That's the amount of power it consumes to run the entire network. PIVX right now, we have the same amount of nodes as Bitcoin. It's about 10 homes with solar panel on it, or one industrial wind turbine. Okay. So much more energy efficient. But yeah, so that's PIVX's model of, hey, we're robust, an instant transaction. And then we're focused on privacy. So we, as a community, as a collective, there's a manifesto on our website. You can read it, and we feel privacy is a right. So you have a right to choose what you share, what you don't share. And that also comes into the financial, I'm going to send somebody some funds, or I'm going to pay for this. I can do it in a manner that I don't have to show everybody that.
You're anonymous.
It's you're anonymous.
So no one need know exactly how many PIVX coins you have.
Bingo. Yeah.
It's Switzerland before the 21st century.
Yeah. So that's giving and empowering that financial freedom back to an individual to choose what they store, what they use, where they send, etc. That's you as an individual human. That's your right.
So let's do that. Let's fast forward 5 years from now. We're in a PIVX world. What does that look like? Let's say I'm going out. Elias and Alex, who are here with us, I'm going to take them out to lunch, and I'm going to buy lunch. I mean, how do you do it? Right. How do I do that in a PIVX world?
So there's going to be carryovers from the current system, right? So most people already use digital cash. It's a credit card, right? It's a debit card. Most of us don't walk around with tons of cash and then just buy everything with cash or silver or gold. So it's that legacy of saying, oh, here is a card, or maybe it's a mobile wallet, like a little QR scanner, technology in 5 years, I don't know, might be a thumbprint, et cetera. That ledger and record of your transactions and what you have, boop, here you go. So they already have that technology where if you can prepay, load up a debit card with PIVX, and then walk into a store and use it.
Now, how would I get PIVX? Because in a way, it's a substitution for the dollar. Right now, we peg everything to our dollars, and I can charge based on either the dollars I debt for or the dollars that I have in my possession.
So it's kind of, think about if you travel to a foreign country, you have to go through a money exchange. It's the same basic principle of you're stepping out of the realm of fiat US dollar realm and going over into that fiefdom or kingdom or whatever ecosystem. So you go through a currency exchange. So if you have your US dollars, there's websites that'll do that where you create a profile, go in, load up money, and now you've got PIVX, right? And so what we recommend for everybody as well is that's now sitting there in a ledger with that company or that third-party organization. Best thing to do is have the wallet running on your computer, download it, put it in, boom, there you go. So,
because essentially, if we go back 500 years to Venice and the concept of banking then and double entry accounting, which was invented there, the idea was they were doing things on a handshake hundreds of miles away because there was this trusted banking system in place where there were letters of credit that they knew could be trusted. And we seem to be right there now, looking for a way to do a transaction that's trustworthy.
Yeah.
Now, is the demand for a PIVX or a Bitcoin, what ultimately drives that over $1? Why would I divorce myself from dollars and, pay staff in PIVX?
Sure. There could be multiple entry points and reasons for why you may or may not want to. So for me personally, looking at it, full disclaimer, when you enter these realms, it's kind of like a stock market as well. You can think of it that way. If you're not willing to just have it go poof,
right? Okay.
Okay, maybe don't go in that with a big asterisk as well, and say, hey, Bitcoin's been the best performing index, I think 5 out of the last 6 years, versus gold, silver, everything else. So it's another asterisk. So back to your point about why would you pay your staff or yourself, et cetera, in PIVX or Bitcoin or whatever you want to think about, that potential for, I'm getting $1 now. Well, what's $1 worth a year from now? What's the buying power of that, right? Or 50, 60 years ago, what's the buying power of a US dollar versus today? 6 years ago, the buying power of one Bitcoin, $20, $30. Fast forward, it's now $2,700. So when you're entering into these crypto realms and saying, okay, what are the projects or endeavors that are building technologies and doing things that are going to be useful? And you look at the crypto, the token, as sort of like it's stock. It's not the best way, but it's the best analogy that I have. So why would I want to have PIVX? Well, I'm looking at their charts. I'm looking at their market cap. It's $100-some million. And I see where they're doing. And the token, the coin is $2. What's the trajectory of that? Okay, yeah, give me the delay gratification. Give me $2.
I'm going to buy this penny stock now.
yeah, exactly. And that's actually how a lot of people look at the cryptocurrency markets.
But eventually they won't, correct? Eventually they're going to look at it as a currency.
Yes. So that's why would PIVX and why is PIVX valuable? Because we're looking for that velocity, and that's what we're working on. So how do you get that? Well, we feel it's through community, right? You can try and do it through the traditional financial models and work with the corporations and get embedded there. We're going directly to people. We're going Haiti. Hey, let's set up a UBI in Haiti and use PIVX as the means of transaction, or Venezuela, or South Africa. Why? Because if you can empower millions of people in a way where the funds they got today potentially are worth 3 times as more a year from now, as they begin to use this and drive that value into their ecosystem, there you go. See, and you're doing it together.
That's an interesting notion for me, because I look at the dollars I have in the bank, and we're getting 1.2% interest, which, at the end of the year, literally buys me a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So I'm getting nothing.
Yeah.
And that's a little scary. And I got to imagine, insurance companies that have policies where they're guaranteeing a payout and looking for where they have to have 7%. When things fluctuate like that, I could see where possibly this hope in the future of, I wouldn't call it compound interest at a good rate, but you call it a rising value.
Yeah. As people realize, hey, I would rather use this means as a way to transact my transactions or pass wealth. That does this. So the other thing too with PIVX is, and interesting you brought up about interest, right? So with PIVX, there is, in the ecosystem, we pay ourselves. Everybody likes to be paid, right? So as part of being part of the community, if you are, and that's why it's called staking, if you have that program on your computer and you have just one PIV, so one coin in there, you're running the entire node, and you could be selected to get the reward. So every 60 seconds, there's the reward paid out. So in Bitcoin, again, I know we're jumping, but the miners mine, and every block, so that's every period of time, there's an amount of Bitcoin paid out. It's the same thing in PIVX, except we're doing it with our computers. So we are paying whoever is running that program, and it's done randomly. So you could be randomly selected to earn the block, and it's about 5 to 10% right now in PIVX that you get. That's independent of what happens to the value of it. So you're getting 5 to 10% PIVX. So if you've got 100, end of the year, you'll have 105 or 110 PIVX. And a year from now, what's the value of PIVX? We'll see. But you not only gained numbers of PIVX, the potential for that upswing in value has gone up too. So, yeah.
All right, stepping back.
Yeah.
Why now? Why do we see this emergence of people and organizations looking for alternatives to what is currently the dollar being the world reserve for transactions, gold, silver, other tangible forms of value, real estate? Why now? Why are we looking to cryptocurrencies?
There's multiple entry points on that one. So I think part of it is there is the underlying technology, which we talked about, the blockchain aspects, right? Of what that is going to provide to, I'll say, humanity, to our civilization. Perfect storm, synchronicity, universal conspiracy, however you want to describe it. I think there's a general view of what has been the existing, I'll call it, power structures. Right?
Because there are folks like Catherine Austin Fitts out there who says between 1995 and today, $40 trillion has been siphoned out of the American taxpayer. It hasn't gone into infrastructure, things that it's been somehow passed hands in economic bubbles and upturns, downturns, foreign intervention, warfare. Somehow we've lost $40 trillion and we don't know what happened to it. Whereas I could kind of see where if you had verifiable transactions for everything, just, from an economic standpoint. But you also made me think, what about, you look at the 2016 election and the Democratic primary, where in the state of Massachusetts, you had Bernie Sanders in every precinct where there was a paper ballot, he won by double digits.
Yeah.
In every place where there's electronic voting, Hillary Clinton won. Yep. And you have to question what's going on. Why can't we have a system that's trustworthy and verifiable? Is blockchain a solution for something like that?
Yeah. So immutable voting ledgers, right? Cast the vote, boom, it's there. It's there forever. Document archival. You can now embed documents into a blockchain. So you go back, find that block, that hash, and go, oh, there's my JPEG. Real estate, doing trusts, doing deeds, transfers. That all of the stuff that you have to keep, triple protected in a firewall and in a lock safe. Scan a copy, you can put it into a blockchain, and now it's there. Right? As long as the electronic neural network of the world stays up, then you'll be able to go in and find it, right? So that's what people say that all the time. Well, what happens if the whole grid goes down? And I respond, I said, I don't think your concern's going to be over.
I think it's going to be, how much ammunition do I have?
Where's my water? Where's my food? So, but back to what you were saying, blockchain provides a means for, I don't want to call it an escape, but the next evolution of how things work, quite frankly. We're used to abdicating, and I'll just say, we're used to abdicating our power to other people, right? We're used to saying, okay, I trust you, or okay, government, you're going to take care of me, quote unquote, or company X. And now what we're able to do crazily through programming code technology is say, that's being taken care of. So it's this interesting paradigm shift of, as people, I think universally, are going, no, I'm drawing power back to myself, and not from an ego way, but going, I feel like I got to trust this. Despite what they might be telling me, I'm going more core-centered. And as that shift's occurring synchronistically, there's a technology that's rising going, the more you do that, you can then abdicate and put all the stuff that you had to trust another person to do, it's now being taken care of for you. So now you can really dig down deep and go, yeah, I'm going, what matters most now? Because all that other stuff's being taken care of. I don't have to pay a third party to verify something. No, it's being done here. So
interesting. Wow. Let's talk about some of the latest news on the Bitcoin blockchain front. Just last week, Goldman Sachs won their patent for blockchain, and Settlecoin is what they call it.
Yeah.
And to them, it doesn't appear to be a currency. It seems it's kind of the way they settle accounts at the end of the day.
Yeah.
What do you think of that, and what does that bode for the space?
For me, having been in for a while, it's amazing to see the shift. 5 years ago, mainstream media, banks said, "Pooh, this is what this is child's play," and now they're going, "No, this is the next iteration." So I think for me personally, I look at it and go, they're waking up. This is the next evolution of, oh, okay, they're using that underlying technology, because if they don't, they're seeing basically the writing on the wall. The whole industry, the whole world's shifting, and it's moving towards implementing this type of a technology. So I look at it as a positive thing, right? Mm-hmm. I might have differences of opinions of Goldman Sachs or banks, et cetera, and a lot of people do in the crypto space. We need bridges.
It's kind of validation, in a way.
Absolutely.
What was it Gandhi said? First they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win.
Yeah, yeah. So I look at that and go, like, people get up in arms and like, oh, tear down the banks and blah, 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 blah. And I go, lower energy. They're accepting the fact of what you poured your passion and time into. They're now going, yep, we need that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Maybe we'll start going down other rabbit holes here, because it's funny. During the Occupy movement, so many people who I knew, because I came out of the progressive community. Yeah. I really got involved in 2004 when Howard Dean ran for president, and it was easy then to spot the progressives. You were either wearing Dean swag or Kucinich swag. And during the Occupy movement, folks that I knew who had 401ks, who had all of their money and wealth in Wall Street, this entity that they despised. I thought perhaps it was very hypocritical of them. Whereas if everyone who sided with Occupy would have bought an ounce of silver a week, we could have killed J.P. Morgan shorts of the market and taken them down. Yeah. We don't, like you say, which is what you say, if you think on a higher order, a higher energy level, you can get above the fray. Yeah. Is that what you're kind of saying with this, with PIVX and your view on blockchain?
Yeah, yeah. It is at the end of the day, this is what matters. Person to person, people to people, community to community. Those connections. Crypto, blockchain, it's a tool, right? It's no different than when we as our ancestors made a hammer and all of a sudden elevated ourselves collectively to be able to build stuff better, faster. Some people will take that hammer and then they'll go beat you over the head with it. Why? Because they want your land. Other people will take the hammer and then go build dwellings and beautiful mosaics and et cetera. So I look at that same thing. Crypto is a tool. It has been used for nefarious dealings. It's also a vehicle that as a people and as a community, we can leverage for a greater good. Mm-hmm. So that's why, for me personally with PIVX, is I see the community and what we're doing and the energy behind it. I don't know. We'll see what happens in 3 years. I like the energy of it now. And I see where we are collectively going. So that's why I'm in on the ride.
Getting beyond, because you've been a person who's kind of been out there politically on the fringe and looking at things probably a little differently than most. Where do you see things going politically? I mean, this, to me, one of the big challenges I've taken on with the Center for Progressive Urban Politics. Initially we were just happy to do commentary on what was going on, but I really want to search out and find out what's going on the fringes, because I think we're in this politically pregnant moment, and I don't know where the breach is going to happen, but I'd like to be there. And I talk to folks who are out there on the fringe because I feel energized when I do speak to them, because it's not the same old, two-party, either I'm either a liberal or I'm a conservative. Oh, I'm a Republican or a Democrat. And here are my snarl words that I will use against someone who doesn't, cop to every view that I have. I'm curious because, you're out there doing something that's really pushing society in a different direction, but there has to be a lot of other things that occupy your mind when you look at politics, economics, society.
Yeah. What I found is, I think in the past, when you were in our shoes, you felt alone because there weren't the communities really to get connected into. I'm finding through crypto, just one vehicle, a lot of resonant people that are, as you said, they see through the fact that it's not really a two-party system. It's a one-party system and has been for a while, is the general feeling looking at the American government.
Right. It's just a matter of who's getting paid and what.
So that's where I enjoy seeing the fact that there's change coming. And I think that's where people are realizing and feeling and sensing, especially with the current administration, something shifted. Curtains are being pulled back. Wizard of Oz, like, hey, who's behind the curtain here? The disclosures aren't fully out. And I think that's what I like seeing happen personally, because people are beginning to align over deeper issues and not over the words that are coming out of their mouth about their party or what their stance is. It's more of a, we've got to kind of fix shit and deal here. Otherwise, it's not going to continue. Well,
it's interesting. For those people like myself who read the works of Strauss and Howe, the concept of the fourth turning, the millennials are right where our greatest generation was 80, 85 years ago. Yeah. They really don't have a choice. I'm 55. I had a choice. We were I chose to I could have gotten involved or not gotten involved. I don't think the millennials are going to have a choice if they want to survive going forward. I think things are that gray. They may not appear to because there's a lot of things being papered over.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about them too, and what probably runs parallel to what you're doing, is they seem to organize very well. The millennials that I know that organize can come together in a community we never could.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, it's so neat to see just their view on race. Honestly, they don't care. One way there's things, and they can come together. They can go through Europe couch surfing using Facebook friends of friends.
What matters more? I think that it's a phrase I'm using. Some mentors lovingly shared with me. What matters most? And I think the coming generation, millennials behind them, are tapping into something that's a deeper what matters more. For them, like past generations, the thought of couch surfing, right, across the country would have seemed ludicrous.
Right.
And now we're going, most people in a 9-to-5 job go, oh, I wish I could do that, right? The perspectives of reality and what matters, people are beginning to go, that whole promise of a 9-to-5 job and a 401k and et cetera, well, that's gone. Quite frankly, that 20, 30-year stint with the company is gone. That 401k, it's immaterial at this point. So there is a fear that can come from that of shit, what's going to happen? However, there's also the ability to go, wow, I'm outside of that box now. This world's way bigger than I thought, and smaller too. And it's allowing people, as I say, going back to that core, it's allowing people to begin to go, who am I in my relationship to the world and this universe?
And the institutions that have locked us into that 9 to 5, their power. I look at, for instance, in our pre-interview, we talked about you know more about the health insurance industry than probably most people would care to. But I look at health insurance and, well, it's all about, okay, when you get sick, you will give you this. But I would prefer to see a system that kept me well.
Yeah.
It's funny. I have a friend who's an osteopath here in Lancaster, and the majority of his clients are Amish. And you might think, well, why is that? Well, because they have a vested interest in staying healthy. They've work to do, work that will keep them busy their whole lives. Whereas those who are into the paradigm of 9 to 5, retire in 30 years with the watch, well, I'll take the pill, I'll get to that 30-year mark and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not that ownership. We could have more ownership going forward of our lives and our destinies. And
yeah, as we were talking earlier, for me, it's actually one of the startups I'm also involved in. It's called 11.
11.
11. Yep. ELEV3N. ELEV3N. So the last E is a backwards E. It's a 3. Yeah, it's as we talk about, hey, what are you passionate about? Are you passionate about organic food? Are you passionate about truth movements or pulling back curtains here, et cetera? If you don't have your health, if you don't feel good, it's really hard to engage, right, in the world, in the universe, and also what you'd like to do. So you could call it synchronistically universal conspiracy again. This project, I think, has been floating around, and at no point in history has it manifested itself to where through health, right, through changing a person's paradigm of, I'm going into the same system, I'm not getting better. More and more people are getting kicked out of that system, which, look, the allopathic medical system, it's sad because it's been a great system. However, I think it's been kind of feeding back into itself.
Allopathic.
Yep. So just like a lot of what we've talked about with governments or existing force structures, there's a fear of, if I don't continue this, then everything collapses. So then instead of looking out for the person or the patient, it cycles into itself of, no, I got to keep this machine running.
Right. We have a bureaucracy here. We got to bring on a new CEO. We got another one heading out.
Yeah. So what we are really passionate about is, I think, through health, through reaching a person and going, there are many other ways, right, of wellness, preventative medicine, energy work. I mean, this is something else going down rabbit holes to say, like, we bypass the fact that we are not just a physical this, my belief personally, we're energy, right? We vibrate, right? You can walk into a room and feel somebody's mood. How? So incorporating that from a holistic medicine model and empowering people, like we talk about through a financial ability, empowering people.
So maybe is there a kind of a blockchain support here where, what am I doing of value? Like, all right, today I went to a Tai Chi Chuan class. Yeah. Is that something that could be considered in a PIVX world work?
Oh, yeah. The whole, hey, we want you to be healthy. Why? Because it's no longer about capitalizing on a person's health. It is the higher resonance of, we want you to be healthy. Why? Because your ability to operate at a higher level is going to change the world and have that ability to change the world. So, yeah, building that into a cryptocurrency ecosystem is absolutely underway. So
wow. And as this community grows and trades amongst itself.
Yeah. Wow. So imagine you come into an ecosystem centered on holistic alternative medicine, products, goods, services. As that ecosystem grows and they're using that cryptocurrency or using that token for products or services, et cetera, all of a sudden, paradigm shift, right? They're looking at themselves and health differently, and that opens up the ability now to say, hey, have you thought about politics a little differently? Have you thought about media differently? Have you thought about food sources, or you name the plethora of hot button issues, vaccines, et cetera? Here's a way to get information you might not have thought about before. So,
wow.
Yeah. So we kind of look at 11 as a hub. It's two upright pillars, right? One and one. So you walk through it, you're in a different area. That's 11 for us. So
wow, amazing. Bryan, is there anything I missed, in terms of helping to get people to better understand cryptocurrencies?
I would say for anybody listening today, when this goes live and in the future for generations to come, it can be scary. It can have that feeling of this is so, like, what do I do? totally understandable.
And just this week, I tried to create a wallet.
Yeah.
And it didn't work very well for me.
Yeah.
I got to go back and watch another YouTube video.
Yeah.
But we're trying to understand it.
Yeah. So I would say, I mean, of course, I'm with PIVX, and I love PIVX. So we have a robust community in Slack. So if you don't know what Slack is, you can Google it or search it.
Right.
Yeah. So there's about 7,100 of us, so 7,100 users that are part of this community, and it's growing every day. Totally super supportive. It's community. So whether it's PIVX or not, if you just have questions about cryptocurrency, come in. Probably the moderators are going to hate me, because there's going to be a torrent of people coming in now.
20,000 people hit this.
I'll take it. I will take that. Why? Because we went from 100 people to 7,000 in 4 months. Bring it on. Again, if we can't have these conversations to help one another, then why are we doing anything at the end of the day? So,
right.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, Bryan, again, I am here today with Bryan Dorian of PIVX, which stands for Private Instant Verified Transaction. Yeah. And I want to thank you so much, Bryan, for coming by today, sharing what you did today with us. I think for the uninitiated like myself, this was a big learning experience. And I wish you personally all the best, and I wish PIVX and that community that you're building there all the best going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.